I don't know.
All right. Okay, so picture, if you will, a 14-year-old high school student, and he's going from lunch to his next class in his suburban high school. All of a sudden, the 14-year-old kid feels a pain in his side, a sharp pain, and that's actually the pain of a stab wound. So as this 14-year-old lies there on the floor going unconscious, he thinks to himself, why did I get stabbed? There's no warning. I live the straight and narrow. I'm not part of a gang. Well, the reason that this kid was stabbed is just as surprising as the fact that he got stabbed. And the reason was he wore the wrong color of clothing and the wrong style of clothing to the wrong area of town. And that area of town happened to be in his very own high school. Now, according to How Can Gang Violence Be Prevented, clothing is a very important element of the gang lifestyle. It, depending on the style or color of clothing, it can communicate a gang member's affiliation with a gang or their intentions to challenge another gang to a fight. It can communicate any number of messages. Now, because of this very visual, non-verbal style of communication, many people have sometimes been hurt or worse because they chose to wear the wrong color or wrong style of clothing to the wrong area of town. Now, school uniforms or mandatory dress codes could help prevent this kind of violence from occurring in our schools. Now, when school uniforms or dress codes are mandatory, gang members are no longer standing out. They're no longer intimidating to other students or even other gang members. Now, picture a shy student, maybe who's getting made fun of because she or he has to wear hand-me-down clothes because their parents don't make as much money as somebody who's wearing the brand name fashion to school. This too could be prevented if we were to institute mandatory dress codes or uniforms in our public schools. Now, we need to know that what kinds of dangers face our loved ones when they go to school. We all know somebody in education, whether or not they're a student or somebody who works for the school system. We all know somebody. And if we were to implement some dress codes or some mandatory uniform policies, that would be just one step closer to making our loved ones feel that much safer. Now, according to Point Counterpoint, the rights of students, uniform policies generally say what can be worn, while dress code policies say what cannot be worn or brought to school. Now, I graduated from a school that had dress codes, and I have passed out an excerpt from their dress code. And if you take a look at it, you can see that unconventional haircuts are prohibited. Partial head shaving was not acceptable. Everybody had to have a neat, clean appearance. Excessive or unusual makeup was prohibited. Jewelry was allowed but could not be excessive. Male students were not allowed to wear earrings, and female students could only have one earring in each ear. And then other tattoos or piercings had to be covered up. This was kind of a stricter dress code. It was from the Catholic high school, but it's still just an example of a dress code nonetheless. Now, according to How Can Gang Violence Be Prevented, uniforms work in a couple different ways. First of all, nobody's going to wake up and accidentally put on a rival gang's clothing color. So those kinds of incidents, those incidents of violence would be avoided altogether. Second, students tend to feel better about themselves when they're dressed in a neat, appropriate fashion. They tend to do better in school when they feel better about themselves. And there tends to be less focus on your outward appearance when uniforms are part of your daily routine. Because your outward appearance is not as important, students tend to feel less self-conscious, which is good because when students feel less self-conscious, they'll do more extracurricular activity type things, and they'll be more likely to ask questions in class and participate. Now, when students spend more time doing extracurricular activities, school activities, sports and whatnot, they're already feeling like they're part of a group, which is something that gangs tend to feed off of to get people to join up. Also, when students are doing more school activities, they have less idle time to get into trouble. Now, according to school dress codes, a pro-con issue, some cities like Baltimore, Boston, Cleveland, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, Miami, New Orleans, New York, and Seattle are all instituting higher numbers of these codes and policies, and they're seeing some success with it. According to the Washington Post, the United States lagged behind 16 of 30 countries when it came to science comprehension, and with regards to mathematics, we fell behind 23 other countries. So we can and need to see these scores improve. When students are focusing on gang activity and troublemaking, they're not helping us improve ourselves as a country. Now imagine if we do put these policies in place in our public schools. You can picture a system that's currently seen as almost a joke get a reputation for turning itself around and producing full-on scholars. Now, uniforms aren't the only answer. They're just one option that we should consider and need to consider putting into place to see ourselves grow and prosper more as a country. Many students feel that some uniform policies inhibit their freedom of expression, but we need to remember that our rights are protected as long as we're not infringing upon other people's rights. And our students have a right to learn. As taxpayers, we have a right to demand results from our public school system. And a classroom's right to learn is more important than one person's right to distract. We can all take action to ensure that some of these policies are put into place. We need to ask our school boards, we need to petition our school administrators, because it's just one more step that can make our schools safer and that can help our students prosper and grow to their full potential. So what I would urge you to do is speak to anybody that you know in the public school system and put these ideas out there, because it can help us as a country and it can help our kids grow and prosper. Thank you.
That's all right. Okay. You made us fat.